My sister accused me of stealing $110,000 at her wedding, so I showed her cheating video from that same night. At my sister's $300,000 dream wedding, I was publicly accused of stealing $110,000. In front of 200 guests, family, friends, and her brand new husband, she pointed at me and said I was a thief. She didn't even hesitate. It was late. The party was still in full swing. Fairy lights twinkled in the trees. The open bar was overflowing, and everyone was dancing like they didn't have a care in the world. The kind of wedding people post about for months. She had it all. Live band, flower walls, a 5-tier cake, even a champagne tower so tall it needed its own table. Everything looked perfect until it wasn't. The music suddenly cut out. The wedding planner rushed onto the dance floor looking panicked, whispered something to the DJ, and grabbed a mic. Her voice trembled as she announced that one of the card boxes was missing. That box, apparently, contained over $100,000 in cash and checks. It had disappeared sometime during the reception. And then, my sister turned to me. "He was near the gift table," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "He was acting weird. He didn't bring anyone with him. He probably needed the money." I froze. I thought she was joking. I laughed nervously, but then I looked around. No one else was laughing. My sister's face was pale and hard. Her husband looked stunned. People started whispering. My own mother avoided my eyes. My dad folded his arms and stared at the ground. I felt my face burning. My throat tightened. I couldn't even speak. This was my sister, my own blood, and she was accusing me of grand theft with no evidence, in front of every person who had ever mattered to her, or to me. I was humiliated. I felt like I was standing on a stage, completely naked, while everyone watched and judged. But what she didn't know was that I had a secret. I'd been filming a behind-the-scenes vlog all day. She had asked for some casual, candid shots for a wedding video, and I figured I'd go the extra mile. So I clipped a small GoPro inside my suit jacket to capture moments here and there. And that little camera caught more than just champagne toasts and awkward dancing. It caught her, my sister, slipping away from the reception, holding hands with someone, not her husband. They disappeared into a side room near the back hallway, one the staff used for storing extra supplies. And when they came out 10 minutes later, she was adjusting her dress, and he was zipping up his pants. I hadn't even reviewed the footage yet, but I knew what I saw. So there I was, standing in front of a room full of people, being accused of a crime I didn't commit, watching my reputation collapse, feeling abandoned by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. And in my pocket, I had a memory card that could blow her entire world apart. What do you do in that moment? Do you stay quiet and take the blame for something you didn't do, just to keep the peace? Or do you tell the truth, no matter how ugly it is? If your own sister tried to destroy you in front of everyone, would you let it slide? Or would you burn everything down with her? Because that night, I made my choice. Growing up, my sister Ashley was the golden child. She was the straight-A student, the homecoming queen, the girl with the perfect hair, the perfect smile, the perfect everything. My parents adored her, not just in the casual parental way. I mean worshipped. They celebrated her every success like it was the second coming. Meanwhile, I, her younger brother by 3 years, was the quiet one, the background noise, the default babysitter, the disappointment they never admitted out loud. I remember being 8 years old, standing in the hallway while Ashley twirled in her new pink dress before a school recital. Mom clapped and cried. Dad took pictures like he was photographing Beyoncé. And me? I stood there holding her coat and backpack. No one even noticed I'd just won a math competition the day before. It sounds petty. I know it does. But when you spend your whole childhood being compared to someone who can do no wrong, it messes with you. It breeds resentment. Or worse, it breeds silence. You stop expecting recognition. You just exist in the shadows of someone else's spotlight. And that spotlight? Ashley loved it. She wasn't mean, not exactly. Not the kind of sister who pushed me down the stairs or locked me in a closet. But she was calculated. Every compliment she gave me came with a twist. Every hug had a sharp edge. She called me her sweet little brother, but only when people were watching. In private, I was just someone she could roll her eyes at and call awkward or weird. Still, I tried to be there for her. When she got her heart broken at 19, I was the one who drove 2 hours to pick her up and bring her home. When she launched her lifestyle blog, I helped build her website for free. When she got engaged, I didn't hesitate to say yes when she asked me to film a behind-the-scenes vlog of her big day. Part of me hoped this wedding would be a turning point, that maybe she'd finally see me not as a spare part in her perfect life, but as someone who mattered. But looking back, the signs were already there. The wedding planning was a whole production. She booked a vineyard in Napa, rented a team of white horses, hired a personal stylist to design 3 different looks for the day. The guest list was 200 people long, and the budget? $300,000, courtesy of our parents' retirement savings. She didn't ask me to be a groomsman, didn't even give me a front row seat, but she did ask me to be her creative content guy. Her words, not mine. "You're good with tech stuff," she said over brunch, barely looking up from her phone. "It'd be super helpful if you could film, like, candid shots and behind-the-scenes moments for my Instagram reel. You know, vibe stuff." I agreed, of course, even though it felt more like an errand than an honor. And when I asked if she wanted me in any of the official family portraits, she laughed. "Ah, you're cute. But this is more about aesthetics, you know? Symmetry. Symmetry." That was Ashley's way of saying I didn't fit in her picture-perfect world. Not unless I was holding a camera. But I still said yes. Because some part of me still wanted her approval. Still wanted to belong. Still believed that, maybe, after everything, I'd finally be part of something important. I didn't know it then, but agreeing to film that wedding was the exact moment everything started to fall apart. The morning of the wedding was strangely quiet. The vineyard estate she'd rented sat nestled between 2 golden hills in Northern California, with rows of grapevines stretching endlessly into the mist. It was beautiful, no denying that. The kind of place you'd see in a magazine spread titled Weddings of the Ultra-Rich. There were flower arrangements taller than I was, ivory drapes swaying in the breeze, and glass chandeliers hanging from oak trees like stars waiting for dusk. I got there early, not because I had to, but because I wanted to do a good job. I brought my camera gear, a couple of backup batteries, even a gimbal for smoother shots. I wore a black suit, simple, clean, and clipped the GoPro inside my jacket, just like we discussed. Ashley didn't even greet me. She was in full bridal mode, surrounded by stylists, makeup artists, bridesmaids in silk robes. I saw her from across the lawn, sipping champagne and laughing that rehearsed kind of laugh people save for Instagram stories. When I waved, she gave me a tight smile and mimed camera like I was just another vendor. So I started filming. I got footage of the venue, the flower girls practicing their steps, her fiancé Mark nervously adjusting his tie. He seemed like a nice guy. Polite, clean-cut, worked in tech. A little stiff, maybe, but grounded. I never got to know him very well, but he always treated me respectfully, more than I could say for some of our extended family. The ceremony was set for 4 p.m., but by noon, the air already felt heavy. Not just from the heat, but from the pressure in the air. Everything had to be perfect. People whispered behind clipboards. The planner barked orders into her earpiece. At one point, I saw Ashley scolding a florist because the roses were too ivory and not enough cream. It was her day, and no one was allowed to forget it. By the time the ceremony began, I had taken over 300 short clips. Her walking down the aisle to a string quartet, Mark crying softly, their kiss under the archway, the applause, the drones flying overhead. It all looked like something out of a Netflix wedding special. And yet, something felt off. Ashley didn't look happy. She looked like she was performing, like she was on stage, playing the part of a bride who had finally won the life she'd been chasing since prom night. Her smile was wide, but her eyes were cold, calculating, watching everyone watch her. After the ceremony, we moved into the reception tent, and that's where the real chaos began. First, the seating chart got mixed up. A couple of family members were offended about where they ended up sitting. Then the caterer ran short on steak. The DJ played the wrong version of their first dance song, twice. Ashley snapped at a bridesmaid, and later, at Mark, who had spilled wine on her train. I kept filming. I stayed in the background, catching moments people weren't paying attention to. Like when Ashley rolled her eyes during Mark's speech, or when she checked her phone during her own father's toast, or when she wandered off alone near the back hallway behind the tent. It was around 10:45 p.m. when I realized something really strange was going on. The vibe had shifted. Ashley had disappeared. Mark looked distracted. The planner kept pacing near the gift table. There was tension in the air, thick, quiet, electric. Then, a staff member walked up to the planner, and whispered something that made her face go pale. A few minutes later, she took the mic from the DJ, asked for everyone's attention, and said what no one expected to hear. "One of the wedding card boxes is missing. We're investigating it now. Please stay calm and remain seated." The crowd gasped. Murmurs spread like wildfire. I stopped filming, looked around. Eyes darted. People started guessing, speculating. Someone joked about the mafia. Someone else said it had to be an inside job. Then Ashley stood up. She was near the table a lot. Someone whispered. "No, it was probably a guest," said another. But Ashley didn't hesitate. She turned, looked straight at me, and raised her voice. "He was the only one near that table after dinner. He's been filming everything. He's been acting weird all day." I blinked. My hands went cold. My stomach dropped. She pointed at me. "I think he took it." That was the moment. The beginning of the end. For a second, no one moved. It was like time froze. My sister's words hung in the air, louder than the music that had just been cut off. Her finger, still pointed at me, trembled slightly. Her face was red, not from embarrassment, but from fury. And I knew that look. It was the same face she made when she didn't get what she wanted as a teenager. Only now, she was in a wedding dress. And instead of blaming the world, she was blaming me. "I think he took it," she repeated. A few gasps. Someone said, "What the hell?" under their breath. I laughed. A short, stunned laugh. "Are you serious?" Ashley crossed her arms. "You were near the gift table. You had access. You've been filming all day, acting shady. No one else went back there." I looked around. Dozens of faces stared at me. Some confused. Some suspicious. Some already decided. Even the DJ had backed away like I was radioactive. I turned to our parents, standing just a few feet away. "Dad," I asked. He didn't meet my eyes. Just rubbed the back of his neck. "Mom." She bit her lip and looked away. My heart sank. Ashley kept going. "You know how much money was in that box? Over $100,000. And now it's just gone." "I didn't take anything," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "You've known me your whole life." She scoffed. "Exactly. That's why I know what you're capable of when you feel left out." That hit harder than anything else. She was throwing years of family baggage at me in front of a room full of strangers. Not because she had proof. Not because she was sure. But because she needed someone to blame. And I was easy. I felt heat rising in my face. My ears were ringing. I looked over at Mark, her husband. He looked dazed, like he couldn't quite process what was happening. But he didn't defend me either. No one did. The wedding planner quietly walked over and asked if I'd mind stepping outside to answer a few questions. Security followed. I wasn't handcuffed, wasn't escorted like a criminal, but it felt just as humiliating. Guests watched me walk out like I was some kind of con artist who had just pulled off the heist of the century. Outside, under the cold vineyard sky, I sat on a folding chair near the parking lot, while two security guys asked me the same things over and over. "Where were you standing? Did anyone see you near the gift table? Why were you filming?" I explained everything. Showed them my gear, my camera bag, even offered to let them look at my footage. But they didn't seem convinced. "We'll need to hold on to your camera," one of them said, "just for the investigation." And that's when something inside me snapped. Not out of anger, not even fear. It was something else. Resolve. Because I remembered the GoPro, still clipped inside my jacket, still recording, still untouched. And I remembered what it had seen. Ashley, in that hallway, with the bartender. The image was burned into my brain. The way she gripped his shirt, the way she smiled, the way her lipstick was smudged when she came back. She had her secrets too. And unlike me, mine were on tape. I didn't say anything right away, just nodded, handed over my DSLR, and walked slowly to my car. Inside, I shut the door, sat in silence, and took a deep breath. My hands were shaking, but my mind was crystal clear. She thought she could destroy me. She thought that just because she was wearing white and surrounded by roses, she could rewrite the story to make me the villain. But I had the truth, and it was still recording. I sat in my car for nearly an hour. No music, no calls, just the quiet ticking of the cooling engine and the pounding of my own heartbeat in my ears. I kept looking down at the tiny GoPro still clipped inside my suit jacket. It had been recording since that morning. I hadn't even reviewed the footage yet, but I didn't need to. I knew what it had captured. My sister, Ashley, the bride, making out with a man who was not her husband. It wasn't just a quick kiss or a drunken mistake. It was deliberate, intimate. She grabbed his face like she'd done it before. They disappeared into a service room for 10 minutes. And when she walked out, she looked satisfied. That was an image I couldn't unsee. I took the GoPro off and connected it to my phone. There it was. 10:27 p.m. Timestamped. My heart was racing. I pressed play. There she was in full view, laughing, looking over her shoulder before slipping her hand into his. They kissed in the hallway. She pushed him into the room first, then glanced around, right into the direction of the camera. She didn't see it, of course. Just coincidence. But the way she smirked before closing the door behind her, that's when I knew. She wasn't just cheating. She was confident about getting away with it. And then, just 20 minutes later, she accused me of stealing from her wedding. Like I was the villain in her fairy tale. I stared at the footage, at the clear, undeniable evidence in my hands. I could ruin her. Not just emotionally. Socially. Her husband. Her reputation. Her blog. Her perfect image. Everything. And yet, I hesitated. Because even after all the humiliation she'd put me through, after turning our family and friends against me, after throwing me to the wolves without a shred of proof, she was still my sister. The same girl I used to ride bikes with in the driveway. The same girl I once defended in middle school when a classmate teased her for wearing braces. The same girl who cried in my arms the night our dog died. But that girl was gone. This woman, this version of Ashley, she had become something else. Someone else. And if she was willing to ruin my life for the sake of saving face at a party, then maybe, just maybe, she deserved to know what it felt like. I texted one person. Not Mark. Not my parents. Not Ashley. I texted my cousin Lauren, one of the few people at that wedding who hadn't looked at me like trash when Ashley made her accusation. I need you to come outside. Don't tell anyone. 3 minutes later, Lauren knocked on my window. She slid into the passenger seat, her heels in one hand, clearly exhausted. Are you okay? Everyone's freaking out in there. Your mom's crying. Dad's pacing. Ashley's pretending she's the victim. Again, I handed her my phone. Watch this. She did. No questions. No words. Just the soft glow of the screen reflecting off her face. When it ended, she blinked slowly. Holy shit. Yeah, I said quietly. That's Ashley. With the bartender? I nodded. Lauren leaned back, exhaling sharply. So what now? And that was the question, wasn't it? What now? Did I upload it? Did I send it to Mark? Did I walk back into the tent and air it on the projector for all to see like some twisted finale? Or did I leave it alone? Let them think I was the thief. Let Ashley wear white while her soul turned black. I looked at Lauren. If this were you, what would you do? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, I wouldn't let her get away with it. Not after what she just did to you. So I made a decision. I transferred the clip to a USB. Wrote a note. Just 3 words. You should know. Then I sealed it in an envelope and handed it to Lauren. Can you give this to Mark? Discreetly. Before they leave. Lauren nodded, her face serious. You're not coming back in? I shook my head. I'm done performing. And just like that, I drove away. No drama. No explosion. No confrontation. But deep down, I knew this story was far from over. Because when you hold the truth in your hands, and the lie is that big, it always finds a way to come out. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling of my 1-bedroom apartment, still wearing the same suit, tie loosened, shoes tossed somewhere by the door. The only sound was the occasional honk outside and the soft buzz of my fridge. But in my head, chaos. What had I just done? I didn't make a scene. I didn't crash the dance floor and air her dirty laundry on the big screen. I didn't shout or scream or destroy. No, I did something worse. I handed the truth to the one person who had the most to lose, her husband. And I walked away. At 6:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was Lauren. He saw it. He left. Just 3 words, but they hit like a freight train. She followed up. Mark confronted her. She denied it. He showed her the footage. She broke down. Then he just walked out. Took his bag. Got in an Uber. Didn't say a word to anyone. Didn't even stay for the brunch. I closed my eyes. I wasn't surprised. But I wasn't ready for the guilt either. Not guilt for what I did, but guilt for how I felt. Relieved. Not just because I was vindicated, but because, finally, the mask was off. For years, Ashley had curated a perfect life. She built it out of glitter and Instagram filters, always smiling for the camera, always above consequence. And for once, the world saw what I had always known. She wasn't the person she pretended to be. By noon, My parents had called 6 times. I didn't pick up. Around 2 p.m., I got a text from Ashley. You ruined everything. No apology. No explanation. Just blame. Classic. I didn't respond. But Lauren kept me updated. She stayed behind for the family brunch the next morning. Said it was the most awkward 2 hours of her life. No one mentioned the missing money. No one mentioned Mark. And no one mentioned me. It was like I had been scrubbed from the narrative. But something strange happened a week later. I got a call from an unknown number. It was the wedding planner. Nervous. Apologetic. She said the box of money had been found, hidden under a tablecloth in the supply room, tucked behind stacks of unused wine bottles. Apparently, one of her assistants had tried to swipe it, panicked, and stashed it mid-shift, planning to come back for it later. So no, I didn't steal $110,000. But it took 10 days for the truth to come out. 10 days where I was the villain. 10 days where my own parents didn't speak to me. 10 days where Ashley doubled down, posting cryptic quotes online like, "Not everyone deserves your loyalty." And betrayal comes in many forms. And then silence. No public retraction. No, sorry I ruined your reputation. Just digital distance and dead air. 3 weeks later, Mark filed for annulment. According to Lauren, he sent Ashley the paperwork without saying a word. No phone call. No meeting. Just an envelope delivered to her doorstep. It was over before it ever really began. And just like that, the $300,000 wedding became a memory no one talked about. The photos disappeared. The blog went quiet. The hashtags were deleted. But the damage? Permanent. Our family hasn't been the same since. My dad tries to act like nothing happened. He'll ask me about work, avoid any topic remotely related to Ashley, and change the subject if I bring her up. My mom, well, she cries a lot. Says things like, "You two need to fix this," as if I burned the house down instead of saving what was left. And Ashley? We haven't spoken since that text. She blocked me on everything. Sometimes I wonder if she actually believes I ruined her life. Other times, I think she's just angry I didn't let her get away with it. But mostly, I don't think about her at all anymore. Because here's the truth. The moment she pointed her finger at me, the moment she chose her image over her brother, she ended whatever bond we had left. And I'm done grieving someone who never showed up when it mattered. 6 months have passed. It doesn't sound like much, but it's amazing what half a year of silence can do. I live in a different city now. I moved out of state 2 months after the wedding, packed my things, broke the lease, and said goodbye to the old version of myself. The one who kept waiting for approval. The one who thought family meant automatic loyalty. The one who believed that blood would always have your back. Now, I live alone. Quiet neighborhood. Small apartment. Big windows. No drama. I've got a new job, better pay, better people. Nobody here knows what happened. No one sees me as Ashley's little brother or the guy from that insane wedding story. I'm just me. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough. I haven't heard from Ashley since her last text. Still blocked. Still silent. My parents tried reaching out a few times, mostly through emails. Long, rambling messages filled with guilt, nostalgia, and passive-aggressive lines like, "We all make mistakes," or "You could have handled it differently too." They want me to come home for Thanksgiving. I'm not going. I know they mean well. Or at least, they think they do. But no one ever said the words I needed to hear. Not once did anyone say, "We're sorry we didn't believe you." Not once did my mom say, "She was wrong." Not once did my dad look me in the eye and say, "I should have defended you." It's strange how fast people will rewrite history when it doesn't fit their narrative. How silence becomes their way of coping. How pretending it never happened becomes the preferred path to peace. But I'm done pretending. I don't need an apology to heal. I don't need Ashley to grovel or beg or confess. I saw the truth that night. So did Mark. So did Lauren. And most importantly, so did I. I saw exactly who she was. And for once, I didn't look away. Do I wish things had gone differently? Of course. I wish she hadn't cheated. I wish she hadn't accused me. I wish our family hadn't cracked open like glass. But sometimes, destruction is the only way to rebuild. In these 6 months, I've learned more about boundaries than I ever did in 28 years. I've learned that love without respect is just manipulation. That family can be both your greatest comfort and your deepest wound. And that some relationships need to die so you can finally live. I still have the GoPro. Still have the footage. Still have the envelope with the printed screenshots. I keep it in a drawer, not because I need it, but because part of me wants to remember. Wants to remember what it felt like to stand alone and still choose truth over fear. Not for revenge, not for ego, but for me. So when people ask if I regret what I did, if I regret showing Mark the footage, if I regret exposing her secret, I don't hesitate. Not for a second. Because that night, I didn't ruin her life. She did. I just stopped covering for her. Looking back, I used to believe that family meant unconditional love. That no matter what happened, no matter how messy or unfair, your family would stand by you. But that night, at my sister's wedding, I learned something different. Family doesn't mean loyalty. It doesn't mean trust. It doesn't even mean kindness. Sometimes, family is just history. A shared last name. A photo album full of people who don't see you clearly. People who will smile with you in public, then throw you under the bus the moment their image is threatened. And that's what Ashley did. She didn't accuse me because she believed I stole the money. She accused me because I was convenient. Because the idea of her perfect wedding being ruined by an anonymous thief didn't fit her story. But her brother, the awkward one with the camera, that fit. She knew she could get away with it. Until she couldn't. And here's the hard truth I've learned. Sometimes, the only way to protect yourself is to stop protecting them. We're taught to keep the peace, to keep secrets, to let it go, especially in families, especially when it might embarrass someone. But silence is not peace. It's just a slow death of your identity, of your self-worth, of your truth. When I handed Mark that footage, it wasn't about revenge. It was about reality. I didn't scream. I didn't post it online. I didn't destroy her life. I just stopped letting her rewrite mine. And maybe that's the scariest thing of all for people like Ashley. People who live in curated perfection, who wear masks so long they forget what their real face looks like. The moment you show the mirror to the world, they shatter. But you know what? That's not my responsibility anymore. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm free. I no longer carry the weight of trying to be the better person, if it means becoming smaller just to fit someone else's comfort zone. And if you've ever been in my position, if someone in your life has turned on you, lied about you, tried to bury you for their own sake, I want you to hear this. You're not wrong for standing up for yourself. You're not cruel for choosing truth over illusion. You're not heartless for walking away from people who can't love you without conditions. You're human, and you deserve peace too. Now I want to ask you something. If your own sister tried to destroy your name in front of everyone you love, and you had proof that could destroy her perfect image, would you stay silent to keep the peace? Or would you show the truth, no matter what it cost? Let me know in the comments. Because I think a lot of us are carrying stories no one's ever heard. And maybe it's time we finally tell them.